Our first look into episode 7 gives us 4 new spoilers that start with a whole new teaser just released by Glitch that went along with the caption, "Not every moment is worth holding on to. Thanks for watching episode 6. Basically giving us a new scene continuing off of the ending of the 6th episode, showing the aftermath of Pomni and Jax's big fight where Jax revealed his true colors. With this new picture of Pomni and Jax photographed together from their time working as a team before Jax turned on her in the end, showing why this same image ended up in the garbage, meaning it's likely Pomni was the one who threw the image out in the first place, which went along with our second huge spoiler into the next episode that told us that episode 7 would be the episode where we finally get a sort of flashback in the circus that explains to us the truth behind what we just saw in the 6th one. How during a very important scene in this episode, the camera panned over from a very angry looking Jax who was dealing with some tough emotions towards Ribbit and Kaufmo, as we were still never given the full story behind what actually happened between them that caused these two to abstract in the first place, which left us with a massive cliffhanger we still needed answers to. But how do we know for sure that this cliffhanger would be solved in episode 7? Well, it turns out the show's creator Gooseworks had started proving this idea for us early by mapping out an entire list of what to expect in future episodes already that told us something new and different from before in a way was definitely meant to start in episode 7 after all. As from our episode list we were given early, she showed how episode 5 was meant to have the spotlight mainly on Ragatha, episode 6 was meant to have the spotlight on Jax, and right after this, in episode 7, we were left with more of a mystery towards what would come next in the show, meaning it's likely these final episodes weren't meant to focus on the main circus members at all. And instead they were meant to focus on something different and be made a completely different way, which is where our idea of a flashback episode finally comes into play here. As we know, a flashback scene was actually teased earlier on months ago by the show's creator, as right after the release of one of their previous episodes, episode 5, the show's creator had essentially highlighted how this new character, Ribbit, would 100% be important towards the future of the show in some way, as it had already been revealed that she's been making entire full-body sketches of Ribbit, meaning enough planning has already gone into the character behind the scenes for Ribbit to appear as an actual character in the show. Something that was teased again and again in the past, only so far, there's only one big problem. From what we've seen from Ribbit's door in episode 5 and episode 6, we know that Ribbit has clearly abstracted already, something that was teased in episode 5 when Ragatha told us that Jax didn't have any real friends anymore, implying that he used to have friends before something bad happened to them. Meaning the only way for Ribbit to make sense in the future episodes of the show, which we know has already been heavily teased for episode 7, is if Ribbit is part of a flashback scene in this episode, possibly a smaller scene similar to how the award show popped up after the episode 6 adventure. And it turns out we already know more about this upcoming flashback scene than you might think, as Glitch ended up leaving more than enough secrets behind that helped finally solve this mystery for us, if you know where to look. In this earlier scene where Jax looked up at Ribbit's door, we saw how he actually ended up glancing at Kaufmo's door first, showing how both of these abstracted circus members had meant something to him before they went away. They were equally a part of his past, revealing how this flashback scene in the next episode will 100% include both of these characters, as we know Kaufmo ended up abstracting after Ribbit abstracted, as we saw the aftermath of this with our own eyes in the pilot episode. Meaning that if this flashback episode ends up showing us how Ribbit and Jax were in the circus, then Kaufmo would have had to be around too, as he hadn't abstracted at that point yet in the timeline. He had to be making a return too, which we even saw a bit of a teaser of in one of Glitch's other recently posted teasers. While on its own, this earlier teaser seemed to simply be a random merchandise video, we know that there was a lot more to this specific video, as not only did the show's creator Gooseworks tell us that she had extra important creative decisions towards how this particular video was made, but there was also a certain section of the video where Kane announces that everything from that point was canon to the actual show, which he says right before we got this next scene of Kaufmo showing up and talking. A super important secret thrown in behind the scenes that tells us Glitch are highlighting Kaufmo as important more and more leading up to this big flashback scene, telling us his appearance in episode 7 is likely going to be extremely important. But our next spoiler towards the next episode told us that Jax was going to be extremely upset and get a whole lot worse, as outside of his original meltdown that happened at the very end of episode 6, we know that the situation had only gotten worse from there, as going back to our original image that was just released by Glitch as a sort of continuation scene after episode 6, it turns out we saw more of Jax in the background, as his shadow was actually spotted hovering over the image of him and Pomni, showing that Jax was just standing there staring at the image after it had been thrown away already, meaning he definitely still cares about Pomni as a person despite what he tried to make it seem like during his big fight with her earlier on in the episode. And we saw more of this regret towards the end of episode 6 as well during the award show ceremony, showing how this change between Jax and Pomni is only going to continue to make things harder for Jax to manage, as after his big meltdown at the very end, it wouldn't be a surprise if something terrible ended up happening to him later on. But our final spoiler tells us that the next episode is also going to be revealing to us an ongoing secret throughout the previous episodes involving Gangle. As it turns out, Jax told us earlier in episode 5 how Gangle had a super important secret that she didn't want us to know about.
It's not as embarrassing as that time Gangle took an anime figure
and that the secret involved Ragatha for some reason. As in episode 2, Jax also threatened Gangle by specifically mentioning that he would tell Ragatha only what the secret actually was in the first place, as if Ragatha knowing Gangle's secret would be the worst thing ever.
Do it, or I'll tell Ragatha about the figurine thing.
But in that case, what was this secret for the next episode meant to actually be? Well, it turns out I'm able to put together everything we're told about the situation for you early into this video right here. So for what we know about the next episode, make sure to check it out.